Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Storycast. My name is Samuel Ajide, and I'm your host. And with Storycast, I want you to get inspired with every story that is shared on here so we all can collaborate to make the world a better place. And today, I have the honor of speaking with Mrs. Jessica Umeh. She is a believer, a senior information specialist. She is happily married and loves to share experience with anyone who cares to listen. She loves to explore and share her faith in Christ Jesus. Welcome to Storycast, Mrs. Jessica.
Thank you. Such a privilege to be here.
So, can you start by introducing yourself to our viewers?
Okay, sure. So my name is Jessica Umeh. I am happily married. I've been married for 10 months now, going on 11 months, almost a year. I'm a senior information security specialist. I started out my career actually in IT support. That was about 7 years or 8 years ago. And after that, I slowly delved into the information security space. And it was honestly God pulling me into that space, which I'll share more on later on. And that was how I found what I really wanted to do, because I really didn't know what I was going to do or didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was just confused about my career. So yeah, I do information security with a focus on compliance, legal and compliance frameworks and managing frameworks for different organizations.
That is so good to know. And I want to ask you that how were you able to find yourself? Because I know that, and I think that a lot of people are stuck in that stage of their life where they are trying to find themselves, or they are trying to find themselves to know what they should do or what they should be doing. And I want you to tell us how you were able to find yourself.
Okay, interesting story. I'll try not to take too much of our time while sharing. So I finished university early. I finished when I was 19. I went to a private school. And afterwards, I went for NYSC. And then after NYSC, I started working. I applied for a particular job. And to my NYSC background, I had like IT support experience because I worked in the IT team in the during NYSC. And after that, because of that experience, I got a job for IT support as well in a company. I always call it the best company in the world or in Nigeria. So I started working at that company. I was there for 4 years and 8 months. Now, during the stay at that company, even when I still didn't know what I wanted to do, the biggest question I had in university was, Jessica, what are you going to do? So in my head, I was passing time. In fact, the course I studied in university, which is good to share here because I know that there are so many people, as you mentioned, in this space that just don't know what they're supposed to do. How did I know the course I was supposed to study? It was the week where we were buying jam forms, and I hadn't made up my mind on what I wanted to study. And then I remember that my further maths teacher in secondary school, I was making noise. I was talking to somebody, and he was like, Duke, stand up. And so my surname was Duke before. And he was like, Duke, stand up. I was like, what was the last thing I said? I was like, I don't know. He said, what do you want to study? I was like, computer science. That's literally the first thing that came to my mind. And he was like, and you're not listening in further maths class? I said, yeah, sit down. And then I sat down. The next week, JAM form came out and I wrote computer science just from that little thing that happened, because I didn't know. I had all my friends, people already knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to do medicine, they wanted to do, architecture. People already just knew what they wanted to do, but I didn't know that. So from that simple thing that happened with my father math teacher, I went on to write computer science, and I eventually got computer information systems, which is what I studied eventually because I didn't make the cutoff mark for other schools for computer science. So during my 4 years in school, I was buying time because I was like, I will still figure it out. At this point, I wasn't a believer, just to mention here, because I like to always emphasize and mention how God led me into my career path, because that's the most important part of my entire career. I wouldn't have just known what I wanted to do because I was really confused. So I was buying time, and then in 400 level, it just dawned on me that you are about to go into the job market and you still don't know what you're going to do. But thankfully, somehow NYC posted me to a company, and then I was able to work there, and I did IT support. So based on that IT support experience, I worked at this company after school, and this was in 2017. I started out my career officially in 2017, and I started out in their IT support team. But 2 years or about a year into the field, I was always so upset at work. I didn't like what I was doing. I loved the company, genuinely did, but I didn't like what I was doing. I was the IT girl. I was the one that would, pick up that cable, fix your computer, go under the table, go from, we had two offices, like from here down the road. I'll go from this office to that office. I just didn't like what I was doing. I didn't feel fulfilled. I knew that there was more, but I didn't know how to get that more. And then somehow the company I was working with at the point wanted to get an investment. And usually, depending on the type of business you do, some investments require you to have certain international standards, which is where what I started doing or what I do now came into play. So we're supposed to get a particular standard, which is called the ISO 27001 certification. And at the point, it was my line manager that was, overseeing that project. And he got another offer in a company and left. And then he literally fell on my table. So I was the person working closely with him. I was like, oh, Jessica, you know what? Go for the training. Go and do this. I was so upset at the point in time. And just to put it, slotting it in here, that many times when God is leading us, we don't know that it's actually God leading us. It might just look like a fluke, a mistake, but it's actually just might be God. So I went for the training. I was really, really not happy about it because the textbook was like this big and I had to go for 5 days and then train and finished everything, wrote the exam. I passed the exam. I was very surprised. Like imagine going for a certification after university and you still have to drop your bag outside, drop your phone outside, don't you come with biro and paper. Like it was just so reminded me of university days. But I passed the exam and then we went on to do the certification. I worked hand in hand with one of the one of the big companies, an accounting firm in Nigeria, and then we got that certificate for the company. But after that, I thought that was the end. I had to maintain that certificate every year for the company. After 4 years, I still wasn't satisfied. I had moved different departments within this company and I still wasn't satisfied. Then on the fourth year, the Lord told me to resign. It was quite amazing because I didn't have another job. Remember, I still didn't know what I was supposed to do. I had just been enjoying myself at the company because I was getting paid well. I mean, at the point I was about 25 and I was getting paid almost 350,000. That was a lot for that point. To add, I also had a second job at that point. So merging both together, I was earning about 500,000 a month, which was the personal goal that I had. I had a personal goal to be earning 500K by 25. So imagine earning this 500K at 25 and still wasn't satisfied because I still knew that this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And then the Lord told me to resign and I had to. And I didn't have another job. I had just started out a company that wasn't quite successful. I took loans from bank. I had to pay back all these loans and I used all my savings for this company and I was down to zero and then God said resign. So I resigned, have to be. I resigned. It's a very interesting time. It was literally like God pulling me to just trust me in everything. And so so between like 5 months, I had a lot of interesting things going on then. God was intentionally providing for me every step of the way. I got invited to be a movie hairstylist. In case you've watched it, Becoming Abby, I was the hairstylist on set. So a lot of the hairstyles you see there was actually done by me. Yeah. I was also in the season one, episode 1. So if you check out the movie, you'd see me there. So that was one of the opportunities that came out after, the Lord told me to leave. So then the contract came in and I was, doing some little jobs, earning less than half of what I was earning before, but God was providing. And I was in that space for 5 months. And on the 5th month, or close to the 4th month, a friend of mine from, my previous company called and he said, oh, Jessica, that there's this company he saw in Netherlands. They're hiring for an information security person and you're going to be doing the...
Sorry to cut in. I want, before you go in depth, I want to ask you that, have you always been this Christian girl? Because you mentioned how you encounter God on your journey and also you talk about how God asked you to quit your job. And I feel, and I want to know, and I want the viewers also to learn from that.
Okay, so I wasn't always a Christian girl. I wasn't always saved. Throughout my university days, I wasn't saved. I actually gave my life to Christ in July 2016. I was 20. I was done with university. I was serving at the point, and my my parents are from an Orthodox church background, so I grew up there for 20 years. And I thought I was saved. I thought that if I died, I was going to go to heaven. I thought I was doing everything right, but I was just living the average empty life, while I was in school. And I didn't understand what it meant to have a relationship with God. When I finished university, I knew that there was more. I didn't know what that more was. But I never really read my Bible because I was always made to understand that maybe the Bible was a bit complicated and you can't understand it. And I never really, in fact, in university, one of the things I wasn't doing so much was going to church. I would go to church this week, then next week I wouldn't go. Then I was just leaving. And then one day I remember that my mom traveled because if she saw me going to that church, she would kill me. So she traveled, and then it was in July. It was July 30th, 2016. That was the day I gave my life to Christ. And I just woke up that morning. It was a Sunday morning. I said, I need to go to a church that is not the normal church I grew up in. And so I took my mom's car keys and I just started driving. I remember I had been seeing a particular church close by my house. And so I walked into the church. I just, walked in, and the pastor was preaching. And I remember literally being at the edge of my seat because I had never heard something so good. I was wondering, like, is this the same Bible? Because I've been in church for 20 years. I was like, is this the same Bible? Is this the same God? Like, who are they talking about? The preaching was so good. And at the end of the service, if you're a first timer, come outside. And after that, people that were not saved, if you're not saved, give your life to Christ. And I remember clearly that he said, if you've never heard from God before, he said that we were about to start a fasting. Exactly. It was actually July 31st. Well, August was the next month. He said from August 1st, the church was fasting. And he said, if you've never heard God before, you're going to hear God. And I was like, okay. I had just given my life to Christ. And I remember the next day, I was serving at this point. I was working then in a company around Lupeju. And I had given my life to Christ in church, as he said. Physically, nothing changed. I went home and I was sleeping the same way, but I was excited. I wanted to know more about the church. I wanted to go there again. Didn't know how I was going to reveal this to my parents that I had seen a church and even given my life to Christ. And then I remember the next day on my way to work, I was just driving out, and then on my street, I saw a lady, and I heard a voice in the car that was so audible and said, pick her up. And it was so audible. I was like, what? Like, what's this? And then I was like, I don't even know her. And I heard it again, pick her up. And then I passed. I just drove off. I got to Maryland. I was going to Lupeju. I got to Maryland, if you know Lagos. And at Maryland, I remember that I forgot my office phone. So I had to go back. So I had to call, Mommy, please, I forgot my office phone. Please, can you send somebody downstairs to bring it for me? I went back all the way home from Maryland. And I got home on my street and I saw the same girl. And I just passed her. I got the phone in the house and I was going back again. I saw her again. And at this point, in Lagos State, then Okadas had been banned. So if you were even caught on a bike, you and your Okada man will be arrested. So I saw her again for the third time, passing back, going back to work. And I had pick her up for the last time, and then I did not pick her up. I was like, this is Lagos. I don't even know her. What if she's. And then coincidentally, surprisingly, as I was going on the street, I saw her on a bike just in front of my car. She was actually going to the same place I was going to. Oh. And at that moment, I remember I broke down and started crying inside the car. I cried so much. In fact, I had this notion that, oh my God, the pastor said yesterday that you never heard God before you hear God. And I said, oh my God, I disobeyed. I'm going to hell. I was so scared. I remember I called one of my friends. She was the only friend then I knew that was born again. Her name is Marilyn. And I called her and I was like, I disobeyed God. I didn't pick this person up. And, that was the beginning of my hearing God. That was the beginning of my walk with God. That was the beginning of my experience as a Christian. And to be honest, it's been 8 years now and my life has not been the same, to be honest. Yeah, so I wasn't always a Christian girl.
Wow, that is so profound. And looking back at eight years ago and now, I want you to talk about how has it been for you getting to know God 8 years ago. And because I know success means different things to different people. I know that. But I know there are some people that doesn't share our belief, and they do not even believe that there is God. So I want you, and they are still successful, kind of. As I said, that success means different things to different people. So I want you to talk about how has it been 8 years ago, and looking back, comparing it to now, how has it been for you?
Okay. So first thing I would say is that the fact that you are doing well, the fact that you are successful, the fact that you are making money or have a comfortable life doesn't mean that you are aligned with what God is doing. It doesn't mean that Christians are also not, non-Christians are doing well, So success is not the benchmark really to life or anything in life. It's a good thing to be successful, but however, what I would say is that there are principles established. It's so amazing. Whenever I see maybe an atheist, an agnostic, an unbeliever, generally that's doing well, and I hear people say things like, but they are not going to church, but they are not tithing, but they are not doing something, they're doing well. But guess what? They are following principles established in the Bible that once you follow those principles, because the word of God will always accomplish what it's sent to do, it can never return to him void. If you follow principles that are established, you will receive the same goal. The end goal, which is success, which is money. For example, if you're supposed to work out and they said if you work out for XYZ amount of days, you will lose X amount of kgs. whether you work out in your house or in a gym, if you work out, you will lose weight.
Yeah.
So principles are being followed by whoever else, but then there's a God that established those principles. So they will still work for whoever. Now, on what Christianity has done for me in my career, in my work with God, in my life, in my marriage, I have clarity for sure. That's one of the biggest things that I know God showed me and God told me about. Every single step that I have taken in life, I did not take it, because a lot of times one of the biggest things that we do in life is we make decisions every day.
Yeah.
Some decisions, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today and he was like, Jessica, why haven't you and your husband relocated? You guys should relocate now. I was like, I'm not going where God has not told me about yet. I'm not going just because why? I am very, very much aware that in 2020, at the heat of COVID, some people just got their visas to the UK and they relocated and they were in the heat of COVID and some of them lost their lives. So I'm not just going to up and go because that's what's trending. Following God and having a relationship with God helps you to put your trust in someone that already knows the end from the beginning. So he has seen my life. I don't need to be guessing. I don't need to be saying, for example, I said when he told me to resign, because I had worked with him and I had seen results from following God, and I know that God wants better for me than I want for myself. If he says I should resign, I'm awful. I don't resign. So I totally understand now that my life is a led life. I'm not living by chance. I'm not living by coincidence. I'm not just hoping that something happens tomorrow. No, it is intentionally led. And then secondly, I would say that being a Christian, has helped me become even wiser than my peers, even wiser than people that are older than me. The kind of advice people come to me for, I'm like, really? Do you really think I know that? But in that instant, the Holy Spirit provides insight and I'm able to speak even about things that I probably didn't have the knowledge about before, but I'm able to advise. So in my career, in my marriage, even when I was about to, like, for example, I used to tell God, I was getting married at 25. And he said, no, you're going to get married the year you turn 28. He had told me this since I was like 23 because I had been talking to him. And then I was like, really? So when last year came, I knew I was turning 28. So I knew I was going to get married. I didn't know it was my husband then because we were dating at the point, but I just knew that God had said it's this year. So it's going to be this year. So at the point, it's from January, we didn't even have for example, resources that we needed. For some miracle came in February and my husband got this fantastic job and boom, we started making plans. And by August, we were already married. And I literally turned 28 the next month in September. So my life has been led. I have clarity of purpose. I understand what I'm supposed to do here on earth. I don't believe I'm just here by chance. So even success-wise, I know what my money doesn't control me, for example, because as I said, I had financial goals. I had goals to, at 25, be earning 500K at 25. So that means before 30, I had more goals than that. So basically, even if I have met and even surpassed those goals now, money doesn't rule me. The average person that is successful, prides in that. No, everything I am is because of God. Everything I have is because of Him. Even the brain that I have, I'm using to work, every single thing. So my life is, I would say, organized. It's well thought out. It's really, really just orchestrated by God. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
I cannot say less. That is so profound because I can tailor everything down to exploring life with God. There is God at the center and every corner of what to do. So now there is a clear disparity between you and someone that doesn't believe in God or doesn't share your belief, because I feel now there is this sense of purpose that come with your success. Okay, you said you have been in the tech space for 7 years plus. So I want to know that, did you transition from different sectors of the tech, or you've been doing the same thing for that 7 years?
So I would say that there's a difference between being in the tech space and working for a tech company, because there are tech, non-tech people. So I was working for a tech company, but in the tech space. As I mentioned, I started out in IT support. Now, because in those 4 years and about 3, 4, 5 months, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I moved departments a lot of times. There was a point I was in sales within those 4 years. I joined the sales team. There was a point I was also in business operations. I was in the operations team, But in all those points of moving around, I was still maintaining the ISO 2701 certificate for this company. I was still maintaining compliance. So that stage, how do I put this now? that stayed constant, even if I moved in different sectors. So, but when I came out, when I stopped working for that company, that was when I got full into working for another tech company, but still doing this main thing I was doing. So yes, it's I know it's not easy to transition within tech, but I wouldn't say I transitioned in that sense. I was testing out stuff because I had a good relationship with my boss at the company, and he knew that I wasn't satisfied with what I was doing. So he was like, okay, you know what? I feel you talk really well. Maybe you can try out sales. I was like, okay, let's go now. So I went to sales. I feel you can, let's try it. So I went to another place. So I've always been in tech space. I really didn't, because even when I was in sales, I was talking about the tech products, that we had there. I was like, not, maybe lack of better, it was selling the tech products or coordinating the sales team in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the summary of what you do in the tech space?
Okay, so a lot of people, it's not very very common. First thing I want to start with is cybersecurity is different from information security. I do information security. Cybersecurity is more of the technical parts, pen testing and all of that, and sometimes even writing code, actual ethical hacking. I do information security. Information security is tied to the ISO 27001 standard, which is Information Security Management Systems. So basically, what the standard is by the International Standardization Organization. And so basically, ISO standards there are different ISO standards for different things, for hospitals, for tech. Now, the ISO standard that governs tech companies, including fintechs, banks, and any company that would manage bulk data or, personal information of individuals, you would need to get the standard basically. And it's majorly a standard that is, of course, it's very present in Nigeria. It's also majorly present in European countries. So in the European Union, there are a lot of companies that need the certificate. So I am an implementer of the standard. If anyone wants to get into the space, you basically need to go for the training, the ISO 27001 lead implementer training. There are a lot of schools and training schools in Nigeria that does it. But it's I would say that it's not a career path for anybody that is impatient or anybody that hopes to cash out immediately, right? Because it's very, very structured. So from year one, when you do the training and you come out and you get the certificate and you pass the exam, like I said, I wrote the exam in 2018. When you get the exam and get the certificate, you're not going to get your dollar paying job immediately. In fact, you won't even be allowed to manage an ISMS like for a company yet, because you don't have years of experience. So for example, the first certificate is a professional certificate. Because I have been doing this for 7 years now, I have a lead implementer certificate. After this, I can apply for a senior lead implementer certificate. After that, the ISMS manager. So it is very, very structured. It's 0 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years, 7 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years. So it's a very, very structured. So if you are interested in tech and you don't want to write code, like me, I never liked writing code, honestly. If you don't want to write code and if you're a meticulous person and you like details, you pay attention to details, I would recommend you knowing about the standard. It's a globally recognized standard. You can work in any organization that is certified. You can work in any country as well. So it's skills that without borders, right? You are not limited to just Nigeria. As I mentioned, I work for companies in Europe as well as in Africa as well, and I have worked for them as well. So it's you can do this anywhere, especially for companies in Europe, because it's such a big skill. Even in the UK as well, it's such a big skill, and people that do it, let's just say we're not plenty. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you do. And again, I saw a video on your YouTube channel where you talk about waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting without wasting. That is the summary. That is like what I learned from that video. And I also want you to talk about it here. I know people can still go to your YouTube to watch it, but I just want you to, dive more into it, because you mentioned something just now about the essence of being patient, especially in the tech space when you are trying to navigate the tech industry, and I feel like that patience of a thing is not only applicable to the tech space only, it's applicable to general life.
I remember the video you're talking about. I was wearing a black top. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. I'll give you the backstory for that, because it was sort of like a revelation from God. That was in 2022. I was at the Austrian embassy. I was supposed to travel to Austria that month or the month before. So I went to apply for my visa. And so while I was at the embassy, there was one of my papers that I didn't have, a letter. So I had to go outside the embassy to print it and come back inside. And then I got like a fresh number. So I was just sitting down there waiting for so long. And While I was sitting down there, so many people around were also waiting. Like some people had slept. Some people were playing game on their phone. My phone was dead, and I was sitting down. And then the Holy Spirit asked me a question. He said, Jessica, what are you doing? I was like, I mean, I'm waiting. Like, we're all waiting. Like, I had been there since like 8 o'clock in the morning, and this was already like past 3. I was very tired. And he said, what are you doing while you're waiting? I was like, my phone is dead. I can't even do anything. He said, this is what happens with many believers. A lot of you are waiting for something, but while you are waiting for that thing, you're not doing anything. So, for example, people are waiting to get married, like want to get married. But while you're waiting to get married, what are you doing about it? And that was one of the things that inspired me. He said, what are you doing while you're waiting? Okay, now this time is going. Are you even praying to know what the next step is? Are you praying to even know whether this visa is going to come out? What are you doing? And just from that little conversation I had with Holy Spirit, I looked around and I saw a lot of people wasting time. They had slept. So who had slept? In fact, if they had called their numbers, they probably wouldn't know because they were sleeping. So he said, this is what's happening in people's lives. They are waiting for something, waiting for that next thing, but they are not doing anything while waiting. You're supposed to be building while you're waiting. You're supposed to be equipping yourself while you're waiting. So it made me so intentional about what I was doing at that point. I'm like, okay, because if you're waiting and all you're doing is waiting, you're not only wasting time, you're burning energy, you're also going to get discouraged very fast. But if you are preoccupied with other things that are also in the line of purpose of what you're supposed to be doing. So, for example, I know that one of the things that God told me about earlier in my life is that I will be speaking a lot. So I started making YouTube videos. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm starting a YouTube channel officially. I'm going to start doing this. I was very intentional about my hairstyling because my page is about tech and God and also my hairstyles. So I was churning out more content. So I wasn't just waiting for marriage or for my next job or for something else. I started doing stuff in that period of time because one thing I want everybody to know, and one thing Holy Spirit made very clear to me while I was waiting in that period was that, yes, it was just waiting for a visa, right? But that experience came out into my life to broaden out everything I had not been doing because of other things. So some things I was like, I will not do this. Maybe, I might get married soon or I might relocate soon. So I was keeping things for when. But I realized that the time that I have now is the only time I'll ever have. For example, I'm never going back to my parents' house. I'm already married. So that period, there were things I was supposed to do intentionally there. Like, for example, the Holy Spirit built to me, you're supposed to disciple the people that are in your house. Teach them Bible study. Equip them so much that when you leave, the house is still on fire without you. So don't be the only source there. So I intentionally started making steps because I knew that time was going. I was going to leave here soon. I didn't know how soon, but he had told me, you're moving soon. I'm going to move you soon. So while I was waiting for something else that was coming, I was intentionally doing something. I got so busy that I didn't even realize when I met my husband. I was like, oh, okay, I met somebody. Okay, great. Hi. But I was so busy. I was so busy. So waiting must be intentional. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. And this also reminds me about one of my micro content where I shared on Instagram, where I talk about what King Solomon mentioned, where that he said, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might, because there is no work in the grave where you are going. I'm of an opinion that whatever your hand finds to do it. Put in your best. Keep working on yourself. It can only get better. And that is my own personal principle. I want you to, share some of your success story and talk about some of the problems you encountered on your journey. And after that, I want you to also give, through these success stories and problems that you encounter, I want you to also give out some advice from your story. I want you to give some general advice to young people that will get to be watching this video eventually.
Okay. God help me. Okay. First thing I would start with is I don't want people should not be put under pressure. Because I see that in this generation there's so much pressure to make it. Like you mentioned rightly, success is different to different people.
Yeah.
And success is not only money. Success is not only the amounts that you have in your account. Success is different things. Success is different milestones and can be, defined by different things. What I would also say is that be very because when I was struggling with what am I supposed to do, I started paying attention to what I have. I remember the story about in the Bible where I think it was Elijah that was asked, what is in your hand? Elijah asked a woman, what's in your hand? Because God will work with what you already have in your hand. Yeah. So there are natural things that you do. There are natural things that you have. For example, as I mentioned, I knew that I like talking. I have a lot of energy. So I was like, I'll probably do well with speaking to people. So I started creating YouTube content, for example. So focus on those things that you have. Everybody wants to go into tech now because they feel like there's dollars there and they want to get the dollars immediately. Some people, it works out for them. They start learning and then they are able to get it sharp, sharp. However, it didn't work out for me that way. I didn't start earning dollars since I was 26. And that was after I left that company. But at that point, I said to myself, I don't want to I don't want to, earn only Naira anymore. I want to start earning also another currency. And so because I wanted to do that, I had to open up my knowledge, my space, my mind to the international market. I had to start doing research. What do they want? What do these people want? What do I have that I can offer somebody in Europe, somebody in Asia? What do I have? Because if I come out with my regular BSc from the university in Nigeria and I expect to just, fly out, I mean, Grace can do it, God can do it for you, but there's a market of over 1 million other people that have graduated that you are competing with. So you must learn to add value. There are so many free courses online, so many free things you can do. But one of the first things I said I did was, applying. I changed my LinkedIn settings to not see jobs in Nigeria anymore. I wanted to only see jobs that were outside Nigeria. That was the first setting I changed. So the notifications and job alerts I was getting were only for companies outside Nigeria because that was one of the things I wanted to do. And then I started checking, what do they want? I started from Fiverr, getting small jobs on Fiverr, prepare this document for me, do this policy, adjust this for me. So I already started understanding how people outside of Africa think, and I want everyone that is probably watching this and probably thinking that, this tech space is impossible. It's possible, number one, but it's possible with patience. It's possible with intentionality. People always say, I want to go into tech, I want to go into tech. But if you check them, they are more driven by the money. They're not taking any actionable steps to, really get the results, because it's not going to come in. It most likely might not come in the first year. Maybe it might come in the second year, maybe third year, maybe fourth year. But the goal must be bigger than your immediate gratification. So when you stay and when you tarry in that place and learn what needs to be learned, because a lot of this generation is so fast paced. That's why we have a lot of people doing rituals and doing so many things just to make money or just to be successful in quotes. Because there's a lot of learning that takes place in that process to success or in that road to success. So I would say don't rush it. Be patient with yourself. Never compare yourself to others. And the final example I'll give is, even when I was still not earning a lot of money like my peers at that point, because I had a lot of friends. Also, the kind of people you surround yourself with is so important. So I had friends that were all in these companies together, and after that, every single person started going remote job, relocation. Now I wasn't envious of them. I was inspired by them. I was like, wow, if they can do it, I can definitely do it. And what did they do? They looked for jobs in their space, whether it was DevOps, whether it was software engineering, whether it was UI UX. But they got these opportunities, and thankfully, thank God for the good side of COVID. There were a lot of downsides, but the good side of COVID was opening up the world to the remote possibilities. Yeah. So they found these opportunities and they inspired me because I saw what they were doing. My age, maybe 1 year older than me at that point, 26. You have a nice car, you have a nice house, you could do things, you could help your parents. And it was so big for me because I wanted to help my parents, help my family. And I was like, if you can do this, I can do it. So I literally watched them and got inspiration, not envy, got inspired and started chasing after those steps. And then when me too got my own job, I was like, you guys, God don't do them, I've got to my own job. So yeah.
Yeah, this is so good because again, I said something about this on my micro content about not comparing yourself. Instead, just get inspired by people doing amazing stuff around you. So in your bio, you mentioned a community you are currently working on with some people, and I want to ask you that, what do you intend to achieve with this community?
Okay, it's called ISMS Community Nigeria. We started it in 2020 as well. When I was waiting, one of the things we started. So first of all, as I said, what I do is a very niche part of the tech space. It's not very popular, and we're not plenty. And there is a lot of, in quotes, tech money in it that people are not aware of. So the community is basically to help people know more about the standard, help people to, the end goal is getting people to do free trainings. For example, at the moment we've trained someone already. We sent someone for a free training. He did the standard, wrote the exam and all of that, and got the certificate. So we have 141 members at the moment. It's focused on Nigerians, but Nigerians all around the world. So it's a community that's hosted on Slack. So the community, the goals and the sole purpose is that I saw this space and God led me to this space, and it's a fantastic space. And I want to bring other people into it. I want you to learn what it's about. I want you to know what it's about, but on a general platform. So there are games, there are things that we have planned out, activities, end goal might be conferences later on in the future, but just a community where you can learn about the standard and really decide for yourself on what you're seeing. Do I want to continue with this? Do I not want to continue?
Yeah.
If you're a very serious member and we can see that you're active, then we can sponsor you to go for a training to actually learn about the standard. Yeah.
I absolutely love what you are doing with ISMS. Yeah. And I feel it's just a way of giving back to the society. And that is really so good. Thank you, ma. Okay. Also, I want you to, check us through how you were able to, find this career path. I think you are trying to talk about that earlier on before I cut in.
So a friend of mine sent a job post for a company in Netherlands and said, "Oh, they are hiring for this thing that you do." And I was like, "Yeah, but I was doing this alongside other things in the previous job. Why would I just be doing only this?" And I was like, "I don't think I even know it that much." And he was like, "Jessica, you actually do know it that much." I was like, "Eh." I was like, "Okay, let me try it out." So I applied. He applied as well because he was also doing it with me, and he applied. And just to add here, sometimes people are watching you and they know what you do better more than you even know. Because I was having like an imposter syndrome. I was like, "No, I don't think I do it so well. I'm just trying." But he was also doing it, and he applied and he got a rejection. I applied, and less than 1 hour later, I got invited for an interview. I was like, okay. And so I did the first stage, I did the second stage, and meanwhile, this is a company in Netherlands. I did the first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage. Now, the interesting thing, the first stage was for 5 hours, and we had I met like different team members for like 1 hour each. There were so many questions and all of that. And it was a relocation job. At this point, the salary was 5,000 euros per month. It was a really, really good package. And I was going to relocate to the Netherlands. And I was so excited about it, And at the fourth stage, I finished the entire 5 hours and they were like, "Oh," and the person I was going to work with was really so excited, like, "Oh, I like your energy." And I remember that one of the guys asked me a very important question. I was like, "How old are you?" I was like, 26. He said, "How many years have you been doing this?" I was like, 4 years. He said, 4 years. Like, he was shocked. Like, how can somebody this young have been doing it? Because many people in this field, they are older, like late 30s, 40s, and stuff like that. So he said, I even see job ads. I saw one last week that, for what I do, and they said age range between 35 and 45. I'm like, guy, why? There are some of us that are younger that are doing this thing, And eventually, guess what? I didn't get that job. At the fourth stage, I didn't get the job. I got a rejection email like a week
I remember
after.
you shared this at Agora.
Yes, I did. And I remember talking to my boss, who I'm going to give a big shout out to. His name is Deji Balogun. He's CTO of Terragon Group, best company in Nigeria, I would say anywhere. So I remember calling him and I was like, Deji, I didn't get the job. And he was like, Jessica, it's fine now. And he was like, but guess what? You know something and you have something that people in abroad, people like over there, they want. He said, you scaled through the first interview, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. He was like, see, what you should take out from here is that you can work anywhere in the world. Now, immediately he said that. That was it for me. Every single thing I was applying for became in the EU. I was looking for companies in Netherlands, looking for companies in Austria, looking for companies in Germany, and I refined my LinkedIn alerts. And guess what? The next month, I applied to the job I currently work for. I found them because I had fixed the alerts and I applied, got the interview in January, got the offer that same January, and I've been there since then.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Jessica, for everything you share with us on Storycast. I personally have been so inspired and I've get to learn a lot. And I'm sure everybody that will get to watch this video or that is currently watching this video will definitely learn a whole lot from this video as well. And I just want to, say thank you so much for coming and thank you so much for sharing all you just shared with us. And also, before you go, I want you to, give special shout out to people in your life or anybody in your life that have always been there for you.
Okay. First, of course, to God. He has always been there for me. To my mom, she has been so supportive. To my husband, to my boss, my previous boss, in my former company, Deji Balogun, to my current boss, Lydia Kothmaya, To my friends, I have a close knit, group of friends. The girls, the squad, Angela, Camila, Chikemi, Kelechi, Ewa, Augusta, Dotun. I have friends that have just been there throughout the entire process, and they've been core parts of my career. But career-wise, I'm shouting out to DG, I'm shouting out to Lydia, because they've really, really been there for me.
Yeah, like seriously, I say this over and over again. Like one of many things that I'm learning currently is the importance of community, relationship, good relationship per se, friends, family. Just building your life and leveraging on these things will help you as an individual, regardless of the industry that you find yourself. And this is so good. Thank you so much. And before you go, I also want you to say something to my viewers. Yeah.
I'm definitely tagging your YouTube so that people will go to your YouTube and watch it. Ladies should go and learn how to fix their hair.
Oh, that would be great. So thank you for watching Storycast. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope that you were inspired. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have questions. And if you do, I'm sure you can comment on Storycast, and then he will answer, or he can send them to me and I'll answer as well. And I want you to know that you can do it. You definitely can. Regardless of how many times you fall down, you can stand up again and you can continue doing it. As long as there's life, there's hope.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Storycast. I am so sure that you will learn something because I learned something. And don't forget to like, share the link to this YouTube channel with your friends and family. Share your opinion in the comment section, and most importantly, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I am Samuel Ajide, and I'm your host. See you in the next episode.